Welcome everyone, this is Roland. I'm stopping by to talk about meditation. You should begin every day with a little bit of meditation that gets you into a state of mind where you can go out in the world without being impinged upon by everything. You see, now, if you're not meditating with my meditation, when you go out in the world, things penetrate. Things get to you. They form memories. They form conditioned responses. They get inside, let's put it that way. And everything should stay on the outside. You remember in the Garden of Eden, the voice, the will, the serpent's will, the serpent's type of thinking, the pressure, the seduction, it was on the outside. But when Adam fell to it, it got on the inside. And not only did the food, the words, the lies get inside, the memory, but also the will of the serpent. And once inside, it then began to haunt him from within. It's like a voice that's always trying to take credit for things. It's always trying to urge you on. It's always trying to second guess, to put doubt in your mind. And you've always thought that voice was yours, that voice in your head that made you doubt. But now you must realize that it came from the outside. It came from the outside when you were upset, when you were angered, and when you were frustrated, and when people were mean and when they were cruel, and things happened. And then you fell to the tease and to the challenge, and you tried to prove something, and it just goes on and on. What I would like you to see is that there are parallel dimensions. And we all know there's the kingdom of heaven, and then there's the other kingdom. And it's the other kingdom. It's the other dimension. On the other side of matter, there's this, let's call it the dark side of the force. You know, like in Star Trek, they talked about this dark side of the force. Well, that's where that will lurks. That will, that intelligence, that pressure. And when your force fields are down, you see, when you're not angry, when you're not resentful, when you're not doubting, then you have a protection. And it's like a force field. It keeps the bad out. But when your force field collapses, when you become resentful, angry, when you hate someone, when you want something too much, when you concentrate too much and focus on something that you want to do, for example, then you're paying attention, and your force field can be attacked. And when it is, then that on the outside gets on the inside. Or to put it another way, in an instant, you're in or closer to that parallel dimension. Do you understand? So you don't want to be there, because when you look around at the world, when you see hate and cruelty and violence and horrible, awful things going on, it's like hell on earth, isn't it? Well, it's because that other dimension is operating, and people have fallen into it. Often they don't want to be in it. They usually don't want to be in it. But they are, and everything is negative, and everything is dark. So what I want you to see is that is what sin is. It's when that outside will gets in. Somewhere along the way, that outside, that darkness out there, the hatred and the cruelty and the meanness and the deception and the lies, somehow that darkness gets inside. And how it gets in, you don't need to know right now. As you progress in your meditation, you'll begin to see. But often it has to do with people who are cruel, people who are seductive. And it has to do with anger and rage toward people and resentment. And it has to do with being angry at God. And it has to do with resenting your father because he failed you, which all fathers have failed all of their families. But what you have to learn is not to resent your father, to let the resentment go. But in various ways, and then things we want too much. Something you were tempted to want so much that you yielded to things that you shouldn't have yielded to. Let's put it that way. And so that darkness gets in. It's kind of a yielding process. It's a giving way. It's a giving way, and it begins to seep in. Let's put it that way. So, it's happened. So there it is. It's inside. So now what you need is special knowledge of how to deal with it. What you must do is, first of all, you must meditate so you can have a little bit of mental distance. So you can see that the thoughts that are in you, for example, the dark thoughts, the negative thoughts, the mean thoughts, the cruel thoughts, the cleverly cruel thoughts, they're not your thoughts. They're it thinking through you. Now, you always thought that it was you, but it wasn't you, it was it. So you need a little mental distance. So you can see thoughts and see that they're not good, and so you just stand back from them. And you see that they're not yours, so you just don't pay them any mind. For example, have you ever heard a song that was being played on the radio or something, and then it was kind of a catchy little tune, and then it got in your head, and then for a while it was in your head. It would play in your head over and over. So what did you do? You just dismissed it. That's all. It was there. You dismissed it. And then it was back again, and you dismissed it. And then it was gone. You see? So it's something like that. The darkness, the emotions that rise that you don't understand, the troubling emotions, the dark emotions, and the thoughts that rise that you don't understand, and the mean things that you really don't want to think. You have to learn to just watch those. Stand back so you can separate the thinker from the thought. In other words, you're not your thought. You're the observer of thought. So you just stand back and observe. And there's innocence in observing. You just watch, that's all. Don't struggle with it. Don't try to deal with it. Don't try to repress it. Don't try to do anything. Just watch it. So you watch it with a bit of aloofness. You don't struggle with it on the one hand, and you don't give in to it on the other. You just watch it until it goes away, just like that song that once in a while gets stuck in your head. It goes away. And it's like a dream. If you have a bad dream, let's say, and you wake up screaming, you were in a bad dream, a scary dream. But then as soon as you wake up, you're okay, and it goes away. You understand? So the meditation is important because it gives you that mental distance. It gives you that little bit of detachment. But you're not just detached. The light is also there. Do you understand? So now that you see that darkness is everywhere. It's everywhere. It was in the garden. It was in the foliage. It was on the outside. But then it got on the inside. And it got into the whole human race. And everybody has some of it in them. Now you must just see that. So don't hate people. Realize that they don't know what they're doing. Realize they're being controlled by forces they don't understand. So just don't resent them. Don't hate other people. And what's in you that's not good, it will surface in due time. When you begin your meditation, you are committing yourself to letting God be in your life. And you go out in the world as a mom, as a dad, as a brother, a sister, as a worker, as a student, as a neighbor. You go out in the world and you do all your different activities. But now you always have with you that quiet sense that God is there. And now, whatever happens, you just watch it. And when things surface, which they will, in a bearable order, a little at a time, maybe the first thing you'll see is that you hated your dad. You'll see that. Or you hated your mom. Or you hated your brother. Maybe that's the first thing you'll see, and it'll be painful to see it, and you'll make you sad. But then after that, you wipe the tears from your eyes, and you see that God has forgiven you, and you go about your life. And then other things. It's like peeling the layers of an onion. Thing after thing will come from the past, and you'll see. And eventually you'll see that that darkness that's there, that meanness, that phoniness, that cruelty that's there, you'll see that it's not you. It's the world that got inside. So it's kind of like, if you have a radio, then the radio is tuned to different frequencies. And you tune it to one frequency, and then you hear a certain something going on, and then you tune it to another, and there's some other kind of music or other kind of talk, you see? So when you became angry and full of rage, and when you were resentful and hateful, see? And so on, and prideful, and ambitious, and resenting other people, then that puts you into a state of mind where you were tuned into the wrong frequency, and hell came through you. You understand? So you're not hell. You're like a radio that plays what's going through it. So you just don't want to be in that wrong space anymore. You don't want to be in the wrong space that the whole world has fallen into error. Haven't you noticed the wars and the horrors, the terrible things that go on? The whole world has fallen into that, and it rules the world. So now you must come out. You must come out of the darkness, and it begins when you have a little bit of light. God gives you a little bit of light that shines, and then you can see. And then you have a little distance, and you separate yourself from it, from the bad thought. So there's a bad thought. You just observe it. You're not guilty for having a bad thought registering in your mind. It's just there, so you just watch it, and it goes away. You understand? You separate yourself from it. That's been part of your problem, is that you were tempted, you fell, something got inside, and then you thought it was you, and you tried to hide it, and you felt guilty for it. Now just see that it's not you. Go about your life now, and do your meditation. I cannot overemphasize the importance of doing your little meditation first thing in the morning, and then again at noon and in the evening, and at other times during the day, if you can sit quietly and watch the little pixels of light on the inside of your eyelids and be in the present, and notice the tingling of your hand. Be aware of your hand. Watch the little pixels of light. If you can do that even for just a few seconds, then it puts you back in the right place, the right space, the right place, closer to God, where you were when you were a little tiny child, before everything went wrong. You understand? You go about your business. You go about your life as a mom or a dad, a student, a worker, and you do all kinds of things, and you eat, and you have recreation, and just all the things. But you remain on the right side of the force. In other words, you remain on the bright side. And the dark side is always out there. It's always tempting, always teasing, always looking for a chink in your armor, always pressuring. And you just see it, but it stays out there. Do you understand? So that's what the meditation helps you to do. So you start the day with a little meditation to become centered and to be reminded of your Creator. And be reminded you'd like to do what's right. In each moment, you'd like to do what you know is right in your heart. And that you can then be watchful. You can be aware. And then you go out in the world and you don't make anything too important. You go out in the world and you do your work, and you read lightly, and listen to people lightly, let it go in one ear and out the other. And you don't fall to anger, you don't fall to resentment, you don't fall to tease, you don't fall to being ambitious, you don't fall to doubt, and you're safe. You see, you want to be close to the kingdom of heaven. You want to be close to that, or in that, on the bright side, which you were when you were a little tiny child. Do you remember? When you were a little tiny child, you lived in a bright world. It was beautiful, and the sun shone, and you loved your puppy, and you loved your mommy, and you loved to discover many wonderful things. And life was an adventure, and you had a brightness, and it was a bright world, a happy world. But you saw that there were mean people and bad people. And there were scary things. In the night, there were scary things, but they were out there. They were out there, and you saw that, you knew they were there, but you clung closely to what you knew in your heart was right. And maybe you cried out to God, and you were safe, you see? But somewhere along the line, you began to doubt God. You began to forget to call to him, and you began to hate other people, and you were angry and resentful. And then the dark side started to get in. Do you remember when you, at some point, can you remember when you got really angry and hated somebody? And then the dark side was there. It was whispering dark thoughts to you. Do you remember? See? So now do you understand that you have to stay on the bright side and be very close to the kingdom of God, like you were when you were a little tiny child? And you can do that with the help of the meditation. And what has gotten into you, yes, the corruption that has gotten in, that can be easily dealt with when you now walk in God's light. And the dark side that's gotten in, there's some darkness in you. And all you have to do is just watch it. And if it rears its ugly head, you see that it's there. And just don't pay it any mind. Don't worry about it. Don't fret over it. Don't struggle with it. Don't try to repress it. Just stand back. Just watch. And let God deal with it. Okay? And then you'll be safe. And when you're out walking around and you have something to do, and then this voice says, oh, you should do this, or you should do that, or you should say this, or you should say that. Just notice that it's there, but don't pay it any mind. God doesn't talk to you with the voices. Mostly he shines a light upon things, and you just see which way to go. And when you're faced with some issue, just watch quietly, calmly, from a little bit of mental distance. And if something comes to you, a word or something you do, then it'll be natural. It'll flow spontaneously. If nothing comes to you, then there was nothing you were supposed to do, so just don't do anything. See? It's very simple. And don't rise to any challenge. Don't rise to any dare. Always do what you know is right in your heart. If you're not sure, then just wait. And if people pressure you, notice the pressure, but don't resent it, okay? Don't resent the pressure. Don't resent people that lord it over you with knowledge or lord it over you in any way. Just go about your business quietly, okay? And watch out for the negative thoughts that talk to you from that dark side, that say, well, you deserve more, being nice is not working, everybody just tries to get for themselves, well, what's the use trying, God hates you. It'll try all of these negative things. Realize that it's not you. If it was your very own thinking, then you could control it. You could stop it. But it's there. So just watch it. But it's not credible anymore. It's not believable. It's just like a bad movie. In the middle of the night, you wake up and the TV is on the other side of the room and there's some kind of a really bad movie on it. And you just stare at it and it's meaningless. You don't pay any attention. It's not credible. Let it just blare away and don't pay it any mind. Okay? So get the little meditation, get started. I have a free one that's very, very good. It's 8 minutes long. It's it's beautiful, very beautiful, but very simple. You get it free at sheddingshackles.com.